all over our great nation. We're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle, and a little bit of levity.
That's the question.
That's two questions, actually. That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
And you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
On Mark Dolan tonight, in The Big Question, after cruel and unproven allegations about pop star Peter Andre's manhood, we'll be asking, does size matter? We've got several top experts on the show, and I've even brought a ruler. Don't worry, I've had it sanitised. My Mark Meets guest is legendary radio disc jockey and TV presenter Diddy David Hamilton. We'll talk about interviewing some of the biggest stars in the world, 6 decades on the national airwaves, presenting Top of the Pops, and his recent cancer diagnosis. Hear his amazing story at 10. In the news agenda with my panel, is Elon Musk right that the political left are responsible for hate and division? Are you worried about monkeypox and what makes a real man these days? And in my big opinion, which is on its way, woke footballers should stick to playing the game. And is Tom Cruise the greatest actor of all time? Hear my verdict shortly, but first the headlines with me all evening. The action-packed Ray Addison.
Thanks, Mark. Yes, I am Ray Addison in the GB newsroom. Number 10 says the Prime Minister did not request a meeting with Sue Gray and hasn't tried to influence the outcome of her investigation into Partygate in any way. It comes after Labour called on Boris Johnson to urgently explain what they discussed with Deputy Leader Angela Rayner, saying people deserve to know the truth. It's understood they met at least once while the report was being drafted. Sir Ian Duncan-Smith is urging the government to boost benefits in line with inflation. The former Conservative leader says this would protect the public from mounting living costs. Sir Ian says the use of rebates and discretionary funds are a step in the wrong direction for tackling poverty. He argues it would be better to uplift universal credit. He told GB News the government has the budget needed to make a difference.
We need to lower taxes and actually assist those on benefits, and it won't lead to extra debt. The government has the headroom. 2 years running, they've outperformed their own forecasts by 91 and 90 billion respectively, nearly 200 billion, better than they were expected to be 2 years ago. So this is money that can be used for this purpose.
Plans are being drawn up to keep passenger and freight trains running after unions warned of potentially the biggest rail strike in modern history. 40,000 staff from Network Rail and 15 train companies are voting on action over pay, with the result expected by Tuesday. If the strike goes ahead, it could create serious challenges in keeping goods moving and supermarket shelves stocked. 3 people have been taken to hospital after 2 sections of spectator stands collapsed during a rehearsal of The Trooping of the Colour in London. 2 other people were treated by paramedics and discharged at the scene in Horse Guards Road. Witnesses described hearing a big bang and seeing a hole in the floor. Crowds were evacuated by emergency services and the ceremony was cut short. Boris Johnson has congratulated Labour's Anthony Albanese on his election as Prime Minister of Australia. Outgoing PM Scott Morrison conceded defeat despite millions of votes yet to be counted. He also announced that he'll step down as leader of the Liberal Party after losing ground to environment and climate-focused parties like the Greens and Independents. Mr Albanese says his goal is to unite the country.
Australian people have voted for change. I am humbled by this victory, and I'm honoured to be given the opportunity to serve as the 31st Prime Minister of Australia. My Labor team will work every day to bring Australians together, and I will lead a government worthy of the people of Australia.
On TV, online and on DAB+ radio, this is GB News. Now it's back to the always worthy Mark Dolan.
Well, hello, welcome to Mark Dolan. Tonight we've got a jam-packed evening of Saturday night entertainment for you and plenty of debate along the way. In the big question, after cruel and unproven allegations about pop star Peter Andre's anatomy, we'll be asking, does size matter? My Mark Meets guest is legendary radio disc jockey and TV presenter Diddy David Hamilton. We'll be talking about interviewing some of the biggest stars in the world, 6 decades on the national airwaves, presenting Top of the Pops and his recent cancer diagnosis. In the news agenda, we'll be asking, is entrepreneur Elon Musk right that the political left are now responsible for hate and division, particularly after Angela Rayner told Rishi Sunak this week to do one? Is it the same here in the UK? Are the left now toxic? Also, are you worried about the monkeypox? And what makes a real man? Does he still exist in 2022? Tackling those topics and many more is my fabulous panel tonight. Former Love Island contestant and broadcaster and reality star, AJ Bunker. Great to have you on the show, AJ. We've also got an old friend of mine, writer, author and filmmaker, Laura Dodsworth. And last but not least, comedian and presenter Nick Dixon, star of Headliners and many other TV hits. Plus, we've got US news from the queen of showbiz and political reporting, Kinsey Schofield. And in tribute to Tom Cruise, whose sequel to Top Gun is out now, tonight's topical game show is about celebrity height. We're going to play a game of A Few Short Men. This show's not just thrown together, you know. And we'll take a first look at tomorrow's papers, plus full panel reaction at exactly 10:30. That's right, tomorrow's papers live at 10:30. Now, I want to hear from you throughout the programme. The best bit of my show is when you get in touch, mark@gbnews.uk. And this show has a golden rule. Do you know what it is? We don't do boring. Not on my watch. I just won't have it. So we've got a cracking Saturday night of TV gold for you. Sometimes, like last night, it kicks off. We've got big stories, big guests, big debate, and big opinions. Let's start with this one. The highly talented Paris Saint-Germain player Idrissa Gueye finds himself a marked man for refusing to sign up to a rainbow campaign before a match in France supporting LGBTQ+ rights. He sat the game out as he didn't want to wear the rainbow symbol on his shirt. No fuss, it just wasn't for him. A devout Muslim and a Senegal national, this way of life goes against his religious and cultural views. Now, those are not views that I share. I'm a libertarian, and within the law, you can dip your brush wherever you want to, as far as I'm concerned. But for not participating in yet another act of virtue signalling in the world of football, this guy's career is now under serious threat. The midfielder faces an investigation from the football authorities and possible punishment. He might even get the sack. Now, why would that be? For not signing up to the woke corporate groupthink, which is destroying the free world. This is the thing about extreme political correctness. You'll never be ideologically pure enough, and failure to comply will result in ridicule, attack, and the possible loss of your livelihood. All of this is a bit rich coming from the football authorities, who are part of a multi-billion-pound industry in which some players take home over £1 million a week. And of course, all of these right-on football bosses will be in Qatar at the World Cup this summer, where being gay is a criminal offence. Their hypocrisy is sickening. As with the pressure to take the knee, which a number of black players in the UK have refused to do, this is another example of forcing people to back certain campaigns, which therefore diminishes their meaning altogether. I've got no problem with players supporting any number of campaigns, and racism and homophobia are, in my view, pure evil. But the coercive way in which celebrities, and often now the public, are forced to toe the line of any campaign is pointless. This sort of campaign is all about making football look like a really caring, sharing game. And it's about pleasing corporate sponsors who want to pretend to be caring, sharing organisations, but who are in fact motivated purely by profit, not a desire to make the world a better place. Like apparently woke Hollywood film studios that take out gay scenes for the Chinese market in order to protect their billions. They say one thing and do another. Now, I don't share the view of this young footballer who is not supportive of gay rights, but it's a view that he's entitled to have, and in some ways he has shown a lot more balls than any other players on the pitch. Football is a game that here in the UK has just one openly gay player to speak of in the whole country. So how's that campaign to be gay-friendly actually going? That's all right. Stick a rainbow on your shirt and it's problem solved. Just as taking the knee was enough for these organisations to do their bit for prejudice, rather than tackling tangible steps to actually deal with the scourge of racism in our society. More talented black managers in the Premier League and in the boardroom would be a positive start. But in this shallow, hypocritical world, once you've signalled your virtue, real action is not required. It's what I would call woke theatre that doesn't make a blind bit of difference to the real world and could even backfire, as we saw with booing fans in regard to taking the knee. Some of whom may be horrific racists, but many others are hard-working people making ends meet who simply don't want to be lectured by multi-millionaire footballers who are probably off to a spit-roast sex party straight after the game as they glug £1,000 bottles of champagne. Here in the West, we've allegedly got free speech and freedom of thought, but the football authorities investigating this young player for simply having an opinion should be handed a red card, sent down the tunnel and given an early bath. Moving on. He may be pint-sized, but Tom Cruise is a giant of cinema. This week, the big man has been in London, one of his favourite cities in the world, promoting the Top Gun sequel. Far and away, the most charismatic actor of his generation, with a cocktail of intensity, physical prowess, and that smile, almost radioactive in its brightness. What he lacks in physical stature, he makes up for in physical courage, famously performing most of his own stunts, much to the horror of the insurance companies that underwrite his films. Putting himself on the line, on one occasion actually smashing his ankle as he jumped from one building to another, is the reason why his movies are so good. In a world of make-believe, smoke and mirrors and CGI, Tom Cruise's movies have a visceral edge and they feel real because they are real. And Tom Cruise is a family values guy too. Unlike so much of the trash that comes out of Hollywood, none of his films are smutty or offensive. I can't remember the last time he swore on camera. And whether it's Jack Reacher or Ethan Hunt, the characters he plays always embody the same qualities of endeavour, risk, integrity and a refusal to give up. Like the pacing of his movies, the fortitude of his characters is relentless. He's got some bonkers ideas. He's famously a member of the secretive showbiz religion of Scientology. And it must have been hard for him on those occasions when he met the Queen, given he allegedly thinks she's a lizard. But notwithstanding his faith's reptilian theories about the firm, this guy is Hollywood royalty, surely the king of all cinema. He's still got all his own hair, all his own teeth, that famous six-pack, and most importantly, that twinkle in his eye, which has been melting hearts for decades. I've interviewed Tom Cruise several times. He's charming and sincere. He does that Princess Diana thing of making you feel like the most important person in the room. And he's famous for spending hours on the red carpet chatting on the phone to the relatives of his excited fans. Mum, it's Tom Cruise on the phone. He wants to say hello. And let's be honest, Tom had all of us at hello. This guy's unstoppable, and I can't wait for the many movies that lie ahead. Unlike so many actors, I wouldn't bet against his best work being ahead of him, not behind. I've had my run-ins with the big man too. We famously squirted him with a water pistol microphone on my Channel 4 show, Balls of Steel. The Channel 4 lawyers didn't sleep for a week. I'm sorry, I've always been very naughty. Steven Spielberg rightly received an honorary knighthood from the Queen in 2001. And whilst I wouldn't like to hand these out like popcorn, I do think Sir Tom Cruise has a great ring to it. This is a guy who has always given a lot to the UK, filming so many of his classic movies here and being an unapologetic fan of this country and the craft of filmmaking that we boast. And in this divided world, we're all fans of Tom Cruise, aren't we? Those that don't like him are a minority report. He's one of a few good men. This legend will reign man for many years to come. And for Hollywood to replace him would be mission impossible. Arise, Sir Tom. Reacting to the big stories of the day is my all-star panel tonight. AJ Bunker, former Love Island contestant and broadcaster and reality star. Laura Dodsworth, a best-selling author, also known for her creative work in photography and filmmaking. And our very own comedian and presenter, Nick Dixon. Great to have all three of you with me. Laura, what's your view about the French football authorities investigating this young footballer for not wearing a rainbow flag on his football shirt?
Oh, my goodness. I mean, who doesn't support gay rights? You know, everybody does, but the rainbow is so ubiquitous. It's everywhere. I mean, at the moment, we've got the Royal Mint producing an LGBT-themed rainbow 50p. There was a superintendent at Cambridge who was sporting a rainbow-coloured helmet. There's a fishing village in Sweden which has painted all of its roads in rainbow colours. I mean, if people want to don rainbows, that's fine, but I think it's really unfortunate that it creates an in-group and an out-group. And this poor footballer has found himself in the out-group for not choosing to wear the badge. Look, the next World Cup is going to be in Qatar, where homosexuality is illegal. So tolerance has to run in both directions. If footballers and football fans are happy with the World Cup being hosted in Qatar, they have to be happy with whether a footballer wants to wear a rainbow flag or not. And it really shouldn't matter. It's got nothing to do with politics. He's not actively campaigning for homosexuality to be illegal. He's not making a political point. He's just not wearing a rainbow.
And also the problem I have, Laura, with these campaigns is that they are coercive, which surely demeans them.
It is really coercive. I mean, I'm personally really quite tired of gesture politics by now. You know, everybody goes straight to changing their avatar or wearing a badge and thinks that's it, that's done, you know, that's their political gesture. Actually, he's shown more courage by refusing to wear it. And whether that's because it conflicts with his religion or he just doesn't fancy the strip, it doesn't really matter. He should be able to exercise that choice and there should be absolutely no comeback, especially considering the World Cup's going to be in Qatar.
Nick Dixon, what's your view about woke footballers?
Yeah, well, Laura's right to point out the irony of the World Cup being in Qatar. And then I mean, not all gay people are behind the rainbow flag stuff either. It's also worth pointing out. But I thought the most fascinating thing was the irony that the French football authorities wrote this sort of politely threatening letter to him. And one of the things they said is the fight against discrimination towards different minorities, whoever they might be, is a vital fight for all times, whether it's skin colour, religion, sexual orientation, or any other differences. So the irony is they are discriminating against his religious preference. So that's the big problem for me.
AJ Bunker, I think we can agree on this panel that racism, homophobia, transphobia are the most awful things, a scourge on our society. But I just wonder whether investigating this man for not wearing a rainbow flag on his football strip is the way to go.
I think I'm the one person on this panel probably has a different opinion. I think with the world we live in today, we should be fighting against homophobia. And, OK, that might be his religion, but I think we're also... You know, we are moving with the times. Like, why is it wrong? Why should it be wrong for, you know, love is love at the end of the day. And I think with everything else that is going on in the world, this is the one thing that, you know, it shouldn't... to me, I think it's quite ridiculous, to be honest. And I think we should actually be living in a world where he's supposed to be a role model. He's a footballer. He's got that authority. I think, for me, I think we should be more pointing towards let's live in a world where people can just love each other and we just live in a happy world, really, personally. So, although, yeah, that may be his religion, I personally am... I actually am against... I actually may agree with the investigations for it, actually.
Yeah, I mean, do you not think, AJ, that he's within his rights to personally object to same-sex relationships?
I think he is... Yeah, he is in his right, but I feel like maybe make a stand. It's a difficult one. My best friends are a gay married couple, and I just love them. And I just see nothing but love. I don't look at it as something that's wrong, and I think that's where we all, you know, maybe that's what I just see. It's just Do you know, I don't agree with it personally. I do think he's within his right, but I also feel like as a role model and the world we live in today, maybe everyone needs to just get with the times, and we just need to look at the bigger picture.
So I hear what you're saying, that you feel as a very public figure. He's in sport, you know, in one of the best-known football brands in the world, which is PSG, that representing that brand, you know, PSG want to be inclusive. So as an employee of PSG, he has to sign up to their values to a degree.
Yes, I agree with that. And I think if he's not happy to sign up with their values, maybe he needs to be with another team, maybe a team that he has the same values as him. I think, you know, as a team, if he's not going to be a team player in terms of he knows what their values are, yeah, maybe he needs to be investigated, maybe he needs to be with a team that, you know, has the same values. But that's my opinion personally.
Yeah, but briefly, Laura Dodsworth, do you think the argument that he's a public figure should be something that we would reflect on?
Well, we have to remember this furore happened in France. I don't really know what the law is, but here in the UK, religious belief is a protected characteristic. He is perfectly free to hold that belief as long as he doesn't discriminate against people, which you know, he hasn't. I don't think he should be required to be a role model and wear a rainbow flag if he doesn't want to. After all, the whole team are going to have to go and play football in Qatar, where homosexuality is illegal and where gay people can't book into hotels together. So the whole thing's a nonsense.
Yes, there was the conductor of an orchestra in Germany who lost his job, Nick Dixon, for not publicly condemning Vladimir Putin. This is the idea of a certain kind of compelled speech where you've got the authorities or your employer pretty much telling you what to think.
Yeah, I was going to say that to use the Jordan Peterson phrase, that's where you enter the realm of compelled speech, which is different. You're not even allowed to be silent, which is a very sinister line to cross. And I totally understand AJ's point, but of course, you know, we don't want to be homophobic, but at the same time, what will it achieve threatening someone and coercing them into an empty, clearly insincere gesture of being forced to support it? What does that achieve? To me, that's sinister and bizarre.
AJ, briefly, if you can, should Tom Cruise get an honorary knighthood? I think he's the greatest movie star of all time.
Definitely not. I can think of other actors that maybe more entitled to a knighthood rather than Tom Cruise. I'm not saying I'm not a fan of Tom Cruise, but a knighthood definitely not.
No, how about you, Dodsworth? Are you in the Cruise camp?
Oh, well, that was an absolutely adorable monologue. Thank you for expressing your crush on live TV for Tom Cruise. No, I think he should just be happy with his place as the high priest of Scientology. I'm a polite Republican. I'm not really a big fan of knighthoods anyway, but I definitely don't think he deserves one. I'm sorry.
Oh, dear.
Although
How about you, Nick Dixon?
I'm a massive Top Gun fan, and I can't wait to
Top Gun
Maverick.
is a classic. Nick, what do you think? Does this guy deserve recognition? He's made so many movies in the UK. He's an Anglophile.
So many amazing movies. Jerry Maguire, you've got Risky Business, Jack Reacher, all those ones you mentioned. My obvious favourite, Rain Man. But you've got... of course, he should have a knighthood, Mark. You're absolutely right. My favourite Tom Cruise fact is that he won't let anyone run next to him.
No, I'm
is
so
that
sorry.
Cruise now?
What's this? Hello? Tom Cruise? Mate, don't you know I'm working? That's so unprofessional. You can forget about the knighthood. Working with that guy. Mission impossible. Seriously. You can't get the film stars anymore. Lots more to come on Mark Dolan tonight. In the big question, following Chipolategate, in which unfair comments were made about Peter Andre's manhood, does size matter? We'll speak to a porn star and a sex expert. Also, later this hour, in the big question, are the left responsible for toxic politics? And after 10, my Mark Meets guest is radio and TV legend Diddy David Hamilton. So much to get through. See you in 2.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's 2 questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debate, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
A big response to my big opinion monologue. A French footballer is being investigated by the authorities for not wearing a rainbow-inclusive flag in a football match in France. This from Jackie. Hi, Mark. Like you, I'm a libertarian, but I defend that footballer's right to stick to his religious beliefs. I thought it was brave and principled, which these days, when anyone seems to sell their souls, is actually refreshing. If FIFA punished this man after giving the World Cup to Qatar, it would be a disgrace. Jacqueline, thank you so much for that. If you take the opposite view, do let me know. mark@gbnews.uk. Lots of emails to come. But it's time now for the big question, in which we tackle a major news story of the day from multiple points of view. And the well-reported Wagatha Christie court case between Colleen Rooney and Rebecca Vardy reaches its conclusion in the High Court. As the judge reaches his verdict, one aspect of the trial raised more than a few eyebrows. It's related to pop star Peter Andre's anatomy and a suggestion from an interview Mrs. Vardy gave to the then News of the World newspaper that Mr. Andre had miniature manhood and was, quotes, hung like a chipolata after the pair shared a sexual encounter. Rebecca Vardy apologised for the comments, saying she was young when the interview was done and alleged that she was forced into it by her ex-husband. The bottom line is that this so-called revelation is patently untrue. Look no further than Mr. Andre's huge popularity with the opposite gender to know it's clearly nonsense. But it does beg the wider question, an age-old question: does size matter? It's one of the great imponderables of the universe. So to debate this, I'm delighted to welcome love coach Nadia Essex, adult movie star Kieran Lee, sex therapist Elizabeth McGrath, and adult movie star and a good friend of the show, Brooklyn Blue. Elizabeth, let me start with you. Does size matter?
Yes and no. It does not matter nearly as much as I think people imagine that it does, or that we talk about it mattering. I personally like to think and talk about sex as a big box of donuts, and that there's all different kinds in there. And size is one of many, many elements that can be pleasurable, can be beneficial, but there's so much more other stuff that is actually more interesting, more important, can bring more pleasure. So I think conversations that reduce sex to being good or bad to a man's penis size or to a person's penis size are very limiting and somewhat actually boring conversations.
Oh, let me ask you about this, Nadia Essex. What's more important, volume or technique?
Oh, definitely technique. Yeah, it's, what is the old saying? It's not the size of the boat, it's the motion of the ocean. And ladies, we lots and lots of different things make us happy. It's not just, one element. So yeah, no, definitely technique. And if you're not that well endowed, a good technique means that we will remember you forever and you will be a legend, even if you don't think you've got that bigger size.
Is there a threshold, though, Nadia Essex, below which a man doesn't want to fall?
Well, I mean, I think the average is pretty average. But I think that, if you do fall below any kind of threshold, there's plenty of other things that you can do. There's lots of great toys, lots of great things that you can enjoy in the bedroom. It's not, again, just like the sex therapist just said, it's not just about penis size. It's about, especially for women, we love so much more than that, and we need more than that, because really and truly, you usually need to seduce our minds before you can seduce our bodies. So it's not just about size, it's about the whole package.
Brooklyn Blue, you have a long and successful career in the adult film industry. Does size matter?
No, absolutely not. I've always said size does not matter. It's how you use it. It's all about the angle. I think in a way it's actually men that are more bothered about size because they think women are bothered by the size rather than women themselves. Women actually are not that bothered if you know how to use it. And the average size, in the UK is actually only 5 inches. So it's not massive. But yeah, size to me doesn't matter. And I think it is more the men being bothered rather than the women. There seems to be this whole thing nowadays of, the size really matters. But it seems to be more on the mouths, like thinking that because they think the women think that rather than the women themselves actually saying, they need to be a certain size. I don't think women are too bothered. I mean, I know I'm personally not.
Would it factor in your selection of a partner, Brooklyn, if you met Mr. Perfect but he was hung like a dormouse?
No, I mean, obviously you've got to have something to work with. But at the end of the day, I do think it is literally more about how you use it and angles and things you can do rather than actual size. I mean, I've never sort of thought that the size makes much of a difference compared to, I mean, I say this and then, you know, in porn, we always use guys that are really large, but that's actually more to do with camera angles rather than actually the guys and what they're doing. But yeah, no, it wouldn't bother me. And I don't think, as far as I know from my friends and that, I don't think it bothers any of them either. I think if they found someone they liked or whatever, it doesn't come into the equation.
However, I mean, I'm coming to you in just a moment, Kieran, but Elizabeth, if I can come back to you briefly, what about the distinction between width and length?
Actually, so oftentimes I think when people, especially men, think about size, they think about length. So to hear what was just said, you know, that the average is 5 inches, a lot of the focus ends up being on, you know, gaining inches or being bigger, when actually just in terms of physiology around sex, width and girth and things like that can matter a lot more in terms of pleasure and experience, how good it feels. But what's great is that for any of those wants, right, to have a longer penis, to have a more girthy penis, there are different things that can be used, right? There's sex sleeves, there's, you know, different kinds of lubricant. There's so many options. And as was just said, technique is really one of them that can create greater sensation. I think the other thing we're forgetting here too is that every body is different. You know, every vagina is different. There's not a one size fits all penis for everybody. And someone who is a certain size that society deems as, you know, a good size or really big is not going to be comfortable and enjoyable for every single person that they're having sex with.
Elizabeth, does that imply the idea that actually a smaller man will be perfectly compatible with a more neatly tailored female?
I think more accurately, it means that a smaller man probably has a better chance of having a wide range of sexual experiences with various different women or various different people in general, right? The bigger you are, actually, I think limits how pleasurable that's going to be for a variety of sex partners. So
yes, I guess
in that case, I think an average is actually really beneficial and something we don't think or talk about very often.
You're going to need a good-sized plunger to drop in a big bucket. I get it. Kieran, you're with us as well. Kieran Lee, and also another successful adult entertainer, porn star. I believe that your manhood was insured for $1 million in 2012.
That's correct. And with inflation now, God knows what it's worth.
Priceless. Nicely done. Do you think, Kieran, that this obsession with size is actually in the heads of men, not women?
100%. Listen, I've got friends over here that aren't the biggest, shall we say, but that's all they're worried about. Is like, oh, look at the size of yours. Look at mine. Like, obviously, I still play football and that out here, and you have a shower afterwards. It's the guys that are looking at your old boy and going, look at the size of it. Look, how do I get mine that big? And I've known gentlemen over here in LA now that are actually getting filler in their penis to make it girthier, which is just crazy to me.
Also, would you agree, Kieran, that there's a difference between a flaccid willy and an erect one, and that a penis that may appear cosmetically diminutive will grow in stature once the red light's on?
100%. Listen, I'm a grower, not a shower. If I went to a nightclub and a girl asked me to get it out on the dance floor, she would laugh at me thinking I was a porn star. You would look at mine and go, nah, he's never a porn star. But then once a bit of blood flow goes, and yeah, he does the trick. He looks all right on camera. And
were you hired? I mean, you're a great-looking guy. And no doubt a convincing thespian as well. All those scenes where the sauna's broken down, I'm sure it's convincing stuff. But were you mainly hired because of your willy?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Listen, I'm probably the worst pool boy, pizza boy you've ever seen on camera. But I get the job done. And like Brooklyn said, on working in our industry, you kind of have to have a big penis, because it's not like sex at home. At sex at home, you're just on top of your partner, where here you're having to basically do yoga to let a camera see all the angles and everything that you need to see. So yeah, in the industry, you kind of do need a bigger penis, but at home, nah, no chance. Just find
Why
ways
do
to
men, Kit, why do men, is this sexist against men? Why do men obsess over their size? Why aren't women thinking about how big or small they are?
Women kind of do, don't they, really, with the boobs? Like, look, boobs and bums and that at the minute, they're like, oh, I want bigger boobs, I want a bigger bum and things like that. So I think, like I said, guys, it's more of a banter level, I think. But sometimes that banter level can go a little too much. And yeah, they've got right small penises sometimes, haven't they? And then there's nothing you can do with it.
Nadia, do you not think women that say size doesn't matter are just being polite? They're just being diplomatic?
No, I genuinely believe everyone I've spoken to in the last 24 hours about this, I'd say 99% of women said they doesn't matter, and maybe 1% said, yeah, it does. But yeah, we genuinely don't. And I really do think, touching on what we were saying before, penis envy is very much linked to toxic masculinity. So I think if we want to try and get rid of toxic masculinity, then we should start with like the penis envy, because it literally is men on other men. Women, we really, really don't care. And the tiny percent of us that do, that's just because it's their preference. It's not anything else. It's just they particularly, maybe they have a tilted cervix, or something feels nicer, so they need something a bit more girthy or a bit bigger. But it's all about the men, and penis envy it can be quite dangerous.
And Nadia, it was quite humiliating for Peter Andre to get caught up in these rumours about his manhood. He did a moving video watched by over 1 million people in which he said these comments are not true, but they've been very hurtful.
Yeah, and I do feel sorry for him, I must say, because literally I would imagine he was just sitting, relaxing, and his phone all of a sudden just started pinging, saw that he was trending and was like, okay, well, I'm not dead, so it's not that, so what could it be? And then to realise that it's, being Chipolata-gate, I mean, you just would be mortified. And yes, it was a long time ago and she never should have said it. And he is right that if it was the other way around, that sort of cancel culture, that would have been, they would have jumped all over it. So I definitely do feel sorry for the poor man. But I also must say that I've seen the scenes on TikTok doing the rounds of him in the jungle when he was a little bit excited. And I think we don't need Rebecca Vardy to tell us we know he doesn't have a chipolata.
No chipolata. It's a Cumberland sausage. It's a jumbo. It's a hot dog.
Savaloy.
Yeah, with maybe with some extra dressing. Let's draw the line at that. Brooklyn Blue, what are your final closing thoughts on this?
I just think men need to be a bit easier on themselves, I mean, exactly what Kieran said. I mean, hi, Kieran, by the way. But literally, it's kind of like, this is men. This is all men. And it's them, with their own ego. And it's all come from them. It's literally, women really don't care. You don't need to be worried about the size or the girth or anything like that. And a woman will soon tell you if you're doing something wrong in the bedroom and help you get it a bit more right, But this is all down to men, and I don't know where this came from, but all men seem to just think that, the size does matter in this. But like I said, women, I don't think have ever been bothered. I really don't. It just seems to be all men kind of thinking, and they need to be a bit easier on themselves and actually be like, no, you know what? Women don't care. We don't. We really don't.
And for a bloke to actually worry Elizabeth about his body is going to make him a worse lover. So he just needs to be confident in what God gave him.
And I would really, if I could magically make one thing happen, it would be to move the conversation beyond size into creativity. I mean, just in basic science, basic physiology, women don't often come from penetration anyway. come from clitoral stimulation, come from outside stimulation, come from mental arousal, come from, stimulation, so many other parts of the body. I would love to, feel like every conversation of a guy that was, hey dude, how big is your penis? Was responded to with, you know what? It's this size, but that doesn't really matter because I give really great head, or I know what to do with my hands, or, there's just so many other options, and it can be such a more creative conversation than this is how big you have to be. And agreeing with what Brooklyn has said, I think that it could free a lot of men from being hard on themselves, having to focus on this thing, feeling really less than, because you can be good at so many things and be an incredible lover. And the size of your penis is really, really not important.
Okay, Kieran, I'm going to let you finish on me. Let's get it off your chest. What are your thoughts?
Well, what do we all look forward to on Christmas Day? A little chipolata wrapped in bacon, don't we? It's the first thing to go.
You're not just a great porn star, you're a fabulous poet as well. A fascinating conversation. My thanks to Nadia Essex, Kieran Lee, Brooklyn Blue and Elizabeth McGrath. Catch up with all of you soon. You can catch some of their work on YouTube and elsewhere on the internet. Fascinating stuff. Let's bring my panel in. Reality star AJ Bunker, best-selling author Laura Dodsworth and comedian Nick Dixon. Dodsworth, you've seen a few willies in your time.
Well, thank you so much for putting it like that, yes. More than most good girls have, because I photographed and interviewed 100 men for my book, Manhood, The Bare Reality. Photographed and interviewed them about their penises. I have to say, I disagree with a lot of what your guests just said. So, first of all, I don't like to hear the term toxic masculinity bandied about lightly. I think it's so unfair on men, especially young men. Masculinity itself is not toxic. When that term is used, it should be used really carefully and specifically. And I say this because I talk to teenage boys who find it really offensive, and it's just not nice to undermine them. But if penis envy is toxic masculinity, then what are women's body image anxieties? Is that toxic femininity? No, that's nonsense. Now, having interviewed men and women about their bodies and their anxieties, the thing is that women worry about being too much. They worry about being too fat, too hairy, too bouncy, too wobbly, too loud. Men worry about being not enough, and that is not tall enough or not successful enough, not rich enough, not sporty enough, not hung enough. Size is a huge preoccupation for men. Now, your guests were all very keen to say that size doesn't matter, and I get why they're saying that, but they're being a little bit polite and skirting around the issues. If you want a really honest conversation about this, invite me back another time. Well, size does matter. It doesn't have to be the only factor, but it matters. It matters in men's psyche, and it can matter in real life. I'm going to let Nick tell you about a text he just had.
We'll get on to that.
Well, yeah, Nick, I happen to know, I've known you for a long time. You're so well endowed, it takes you about half an hour to sit down. But do you think that there's a degree of sexism in the direction of men about this? You know, that this has been weaponised against a very, very talented singer-songwriter in Peter Andre. Why should he be demeaned in this way? You'd never make those comments about a woman's anatomy.
That is true. Peter Andre's been hard done by. That is terrible what they've done there. And it's similar the way you can easily criticise a man's height or say he has to be over 6 foot, but men couldn't say how much do you weigh or something like that. So, yeah, it's coincidental that you had Kieran on. Mine's also insured, not for $1 million. I pay $9.99 a month. But I just wanted to address Laura's point. And I've never had any complaints, by the way. The complaints have all been purely about my personality and beliefs. But and Laura was alluding to the fact my ex-girlfriend messaged me to say that the panel was wrong, your previous panel. In fact, size does matter. Hopefully that's not why she's my ex-girlfriend. That's my only comment on that.
I tell you what, Nick Dixon's got monthly insurance. Talk about a standing order. AJ Bunker, you are a reality star. You were brilliant in Love Island, in which sex is one of the big themes of that show. What's your assessment of this conversation?
So, again, I think I agree with your previous panel in terms of size doesn't matter. It is how you use it, like Brooklyn said, because personally, from my experience, there is such thing as being too big as well. And I think it does come down to the connection you have, technique, and just, do you know what I mean? the business at the end of the day in terms of what you do with it, not the size. So maybe there's such thing as being, there's micro penises, there's something as being too small. But again, there's other ways to pleasure your partner. So I don't know. I feel like, maybe just like any woman, any man, we all have insecurities. But I would love to take the stigma away in terms of men having to have massive, size matters, because it really doesn't. And as I said from experience, being big isn't always everything.
Yeah, fair enough. When you said too big, Nick was just sagely nodding his head. Well, we've asked you, the great British public, whether size matters. 45.9% say yes and 54.1% say no. That's obviously our male viewers voting in their numbers. An interesting conversation. What's your view, Mark, at gbnews.uk? We're going to politics next. Elon Musk has said that the left is now divisive and toxic. Do you think that's a problem? We're going to comment also on Angela Rayner's remarks in the direction of Rishi Sunak. She told him to do one. So are the left toxic? After 10 o'clock in the Mark Meets segment, we'll have radio and TV legend, the amazing, the truly remarkable and very, very talented broadcaster, Diddy David Hamilton. Plus another great British game show and your emails. See you shortly.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle, and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Well, does size matter? That's the topic of our big question. Linda says, does size matter, Mark? Well, it depends if you're playing the organ in a cathedral. Nicely done. Keep those emails coming. And we will, because it's actually stirred quite some interest out there on email. But lots more to get through before 10 o'clock in the company of my brilliant panel. Tonight we have reality star from Love Island, no less, AJ Bunker. Journalist and best-selling author Laura Dodsworth, and comedian and presenter Nick Dixon. Now, how about this quote from Elon Musk? In the past, I voted Democrat because they were mostly the kindness party, but they've become the party of division and hate, so I can no longer support them and I will vote Republican. The words there of entrepreneur Elon Musk, who wants to buy Twitter. Now, an interesting set of comments over here. The Conservative Party were once known as the nasty party by their critics. But does Musk now have a point? Just the other day, Labour Deputy Leader Angela Rayner told Chancellor Rishi Sunak to do one on Twitter. In the modern world of culture wars, cancellations and deplatforming, is it the forces of the left who are to blame for the bad blood and toxicity that often surrounds our political debate? Laura, are the left toxic?
Well, all too often, people who describe themselves as progressive liberals are at the forefront of shutting down free speech. And when Elon Musk announced he was buying Twitter, the woke brigade, denounced this loudly and all threatened to leave Twitter. And it feels as though there's not so much of a war on disinformation as a war on dissent, as though opening the floodgates to more free speech would necessarily mean hate speech. I think that there is a feeling that the left don't really like plurality anymore. Now, did you see the Project Veritas expose video that was released last week?
No.
So Twitter engineers were filmed...
oh, yes, I did.
Yeah, they were filmed talking about Elon Musk's takeover.
And I think they were on dates, weren't they, and being covertly filmed?
Yeah, so there's a lot of controversy about the Project Veritas videos because they don't know they're being filmed. I think they keep it just within a whisker of the law in the States and the way they do it, but they're always highly interesting videos. So yes, these engineers don't know they're being filmed. And what they were saying is that right and left can't really coexist on Twitter. First of all, they described the culture at Twitter as commie, in quotes, and very socialist. And so there's a feeling that they're applying their own ideological and political biases to Twitter. But also, they said that the left do want to shut down the right. Look at the reaction to the footballer Idrissa. I said that right. Idrissa Gueye.
Yeah.
So that there is this intolerance to anybody who doesn't toe the line, or the trans activists in black balaclavas who prevented feminists from meeting at the statue of Emmeline Pankhurst in Manchester recently. They look like intolerant black ninjas, not allowing feminists to meet up next to a feminist icon. Yes, I think the left has become intolerant, but it's really whether you see things as being about left and right these days, or about authoritarian and liberal, or open to free speech and wanting to shut down free speech.
Yeah, I mean, this is the issue, isn't it, AJ, about whether we can coexist based upon if you're on the left or if you're on the right. But the accusation from Elon Musk is that lefties, far from being the sort of caring, sharing type who want to redistribute wealth and look after the poor, are actually behind cancel culture and are now going after him for trying to restore free speech to Twitter. I mean, is he right? Are lefties more toxic?
Sounds like it.
Because you're pretty politically neutral, aren't you? And I don't think from what I've read about you, you've never taken strong sides either way.
No, I try not to.
But do you? Is there an issue? Do you feel that there's pressure now to think a certain way? Going back to the conversation we had earlier about this footballer.
I think with everything we've gone through as the world, seen with literally the pandemic, for instance. We've gone through so much loss. I think if anything, we all need to come together, have freedom of speech, just learn to love, learn to just coexist and be happy. For instance, like things with Russia, with Russia, I just hate that there's wars. I just don't understand where this is all coming from. I think, why can't we just learn to coexist? Why can't we just learn to just live in a peaceful world,
And you've got a huge following on social media, so you must be aware of just what an absolute battleground it is out there, what a jungle it is on social media. I mean, have you been at the receiving end of any of that?
Absolutely. I think in terms of, as a woman, I have the freedom to do what I want with my body, but wherever I choose to do with my body, I get slated, you get trolled. Again, even with having the privacy of who you want to date, it's just, again, I think we should have the freedom to do what we want as individuals, but learn to love, learn to just support one another and just learn to coexist in peace, really.
Is it going to happen? It's a worthy aspiration from AJ, but what do you think, Nick?
No, but it's good that Elon Musk is calling out the Democrats, though. Where I take issue with him is when he says they're the party of kindness or have been, which is not really true. They were the party of slavery. They brought in the Jim Crow laws segregating black people. They brought in Planned Parenthood, which was Margaret Sanger's attempt to sort of use eugenics to reduce the black population. You can go on and on. This is the Democrat
Joe
Party.
Biden campaigned for the Iraq War.
Yeah. They were the party of the KKK. Bill Clinton's was big mates with a guy who was a big Klan member in his youth. But
surely if far-right racism belongs to the right in America now.
There's a myth that the Democrats were... there was a big switch over and they switched. Not really. The Democrats now they have critical race theory and wokeness, which are more more subtle ways of enacting terrible ideas. So that's my only issue with Elon, but I'm glad that he's woken up. I'm glad that more people are noticing the Democrats are pretty nasty.
Lots more to get through in the next hour. My Mark Meets guest is radio and TV legend, live in the studio, Diddy David Hamilton, 6 decades on the national airwaves. He tells his amazing story, plus a brush with cancer as well. Powerful stuff coming up at 10 o'clock. Also in the news agenda with my amazing, very well-endowed panel, we'll be asking, are you worried about monkeypox? Should we be worried about this new virus? Also, what makes a real man in 2022? Scientists have an answer, but what's yours? Is it chivalry? Is it picking up the bill at dinner? Emptying the dishwasher? Let me know. Mark at gbnews.uk. Plus, another great British game show as well. And US News, live from LA, Kinsey Schofield. We'll be talking so much, including Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. See you shortly.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle, and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's 2 questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debate, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
It's 10 o'clock on Mark Dolan tonight. In just a moment, my Mark Meets guest is radio and TV legend Diddy David Hamilton. We'll talk about his 6 decades on the national airwaves and hear his amazing life story. In the news agenda with my panel, are you worried about monkeypox? Should we allow Joe Biden and the White House to interfere in Northern Ireland politics just to get a trade deal? And what makes a real man in 2022? Plus, US News, live from Hollywood with top reporter Kinsey Schofield, and a first look at tomorrow's papers at exactly 10:30 p.m. Plus, another game show tonight based around celebrity height in honour of Tom Cruise, whose movie is out this weekend. First up, the headlines with the movie star good-looking Ray Addison.
Thanks, Mark. Here's the latest from the GB newsroom. The Foreign Secretary has stressed the government's commitment to the Good Friday Agreement during a meeting with a top US Democrat. Liz Truss met Richard Neal, who heads up the influential Ways and Means Committee, to discuss UK-US trade. It follows a warning from US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi that Congress won't support a free trade deal with the UK if it discards the post-Brexit agreement. Number 10 says the Prime Minister did not request a meeting with Sue Gray and hasn't tried to influence the outcome of her investigation into Partygate in any way. It comes after Labour called on Boris Johnson to urgently explain what they discussed with Deputy Leader Angela Rayner, saying people deserve to know the truth. It's understood they met at least once while the report was being drafted. Sir Ian Duncan-Smith is urging the government to boost benefits in line with inflation. The former Conservative leader says this would protect the public from mounting living costs. Sir Ian says the use of rebates and discretionary funds are a step in the wrong direction for tackling poverty. He argues it would be better to uplift universal credit. He told GB News the government has the budget needed to make a difference.
We need to lower taxes and actually assist those on benefits, and it won't lead to extra debt. The government has the headroom. 2 years running, they've outperformed their own forecasts by 91 and 90 billion respectively, nearly 200 billion, better than they were expected to be 2 years ago. So this is money that can be used for this purpose.
Plans are being drawn up to keep passenger and freight trains running after unions warned of potentially the biggest rail strike in modern history. 40,000 staff from Network Rail and 15 train companies are voting on action over pay, with some of the results expected by Tuesday. If the strike goes ahead, it could create serious challenges in keeping goods moving and supermarket shelves stocked. 3 people have been taken to hospital after 2 sections of spectator stands collapsed during a rehearsal of The Trooping of the Colour in London. 2 other people were treated by paramedics and discharged at the scene in Horse Guards Road. Witnesses described hearing a big bang and seeing a hole in the floor. Crowds were evacuated by emergency services and the ceremony was cut short. And Boris Johnson has congratulated Labour's Anthony Albanese on his election as Prime Minister of Australia. Outgoing PM Scott Morrison conceded defeat despite millions of votes yet to be counted. He also announced that he'll step down as leader of the Liberal Party after losing ground to environment and climate-focused parties. On TV, online and on DAB+ radio, this is GB News. Now let's get back to Mark Dolan tonight.
Welcome to Mark Dolan Tonight. In just a moment, my Mark Meets guest is radio and TV legend David Hamilton. We'll talk about his 6 decades on the national airwaves and his amazing life story. Also, in the news agenda with my panel, are you worried about monkeypox? Should we allow Joe Biden and the White House to interfere in Northern Ireland politics just to get a trade deal? Do we even want a trade deal with this particular White House? And what makes a real man? Is he still around in 2022? Plus, US News live from Hollywood with top reporter Kinsey Schofield, and a first look at tomorrow's papers at exactly 10:30 p.m. And another game show tonight based around celebrity height in tribute to Tom Cruise. Yes, we'll be playing a game of A Few Short Men at 10:50. Don't miss it. Big stories, big guests, and big opinions, but let's start with Mark Meets. It is time now for Mark Meets, in which I speak to the biggest names in the world of politics, sport, showbiz and beyond. Tonight, TV and radio legend David "Diddy" Hamilton, king of the airwaves. David's broadcasting career began in 1959, and since then he has hosted over 12,000 radio shows and more than 1,000 TV programmes. He's often known as Diddy David Hamilton, a nickname given to him by the comedian Ken Dodd. After leaving grammar school, David became a scriptwriter in TV, after which he became an in-vision television announcer for ABC Weekend Television, and the rest is history. He has hosted countless classic TV formats, including Top of the Pops and Seaside Special, and for 6 decades, he has dominated the national radio airwaves too. He hosted the famous BBC Light programme until 1965, and at one point, he could be heard on both BBC Radio 1 and Radio 2 simultaneously. He's also had a very successful career in commercial radio, presenting shows on Capital Gold, Melody FM, and in February 2021. At the height of the pandemic, he started a daily lunchtime show with the hugely popular Boom Radio, a national DAB station aimed at older listeners. He's now the oldest person in the country hosting a daily radio programme, all at the tender age of 83, which this icon of broadcasting proves is just a number. Let's watch the great man in action.
Hello, good evening. Welcome once again to Top of the Pops. Welcome to the #1 pop show with the #1 sounds, Top of the Pops. What about that? That was the JALN band and disco music. Well, that's it. I'll see you on Radio 1 and Radio 2 tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock. Don't forget Top of the Pops next Thursday. We leave you this week with a brand new #1 across the nation. They have toppled ABBA. They are Pussycat, and this is Mississippi. Till next week, ta-da! Bye!
What a handsome devil, and he gets a peck on his cheek for his pleasure. Brilliant stuff. It's my great privilege to welcome broadcasting legend David Hamilton to GB News. David, welcome.
That's the best build-up I've ever had. That was fantastic.
Well, I just had to tell the viewers what you've done, and it's amazing.
I've waited 83 years for that. I thought you were going to ask me, does size matter?
Well, we don't have to ask you, do you? You've got a big microphone, I'm told.
Well, I think with a nickname like Diddy David, I'm not really the best person to ask. But by the way, there's no truth in the rumour that Ken Dodd gave me that nickname after he saw me in the shower.
I bloody hope not. Perhaps it was quite cold in those showers with the air conditioning on. David, what a career you've had. What's your greatest love, television or radio?
Well, I was part of the radio generation. I lived on a remote farm where I live again now, and we had no television. The radio was our window to the world, and it brought all these exciting sounds into our remote farmhouse. And when I was a boy, I used to imitate some of the people on the radio, and never thought that years later I would actually, be coming out of that radio myself. And I remember the first day I walked into Broadcasting House, and it was so exciting because I could feel the ghosts of all the great broadcasters down the years there. And it was such a great thrill and privilege to work there for the BBC.
So it was your love of radio that created this great interest in the medium. You did voices. So do you think you were a bit of a born broadcaster?
Well, my inspiration was Pete Murray. When I was a boy, I used to listen to Pete Murray on Radio Luxembourg, and he was very funny. He had a wonderful voice, but also great sense of humour. And I remember seeing a photograph of him in a magazine called Fab 208. That was the Luxembourg magazine. And he was horse riding in the Grand Duchy of Luxembourg. And he was a very handsome man, very tall in the saddle. And I thought, what a glamorous job that is. That's what I'd like to do. And I told my friends at school, because I went to a grammar school, as you mentioned, in Surrey. And I said to them, when I leave school, I'm going to be a broadcaster. And they said, what, you, with your South London accent, how are you going to do that? So what I did was I hired a Grundig tape recorder. They were huge things.
Reel to reel?
Yeah, couple of spools. And I read things into it and I heard them back and I got rid of the rough edges of my voice.
So you gave yourself elocution lessons?
I gave myself elocution lessons. And I was very lucky because I was doing my national service in the RAF and I got posted to Germany. And that was the home of the British Forces Network radio station in Cologne. So I went to see the boss there and I said, could you use me on your station? And he said, well, we do need somebody to read the football results. So that was the first thing I did in 1959. And I went to him very cheekily one day and I said, all this music that you play, Bing Crosby and Peggy Lee, it's fine for the officers, but the troops want rock and roll. And I don't think he knew what rock and roll was. But he said, how do you know? I said, because I am a troop. So he said, I'll tell you what, we'll give you a show on a Sunday afternoon. We'll see how it does. So Sunday afternoons, I played the music of Little Richard, Jerry Lee Lewis, Elvis Presley, who, by the way, was doing his national service at the same time in the US Army in Germany. He was in Frankfurt, I think, and I was in Cologne. And the troops loved it, of course, and the boss was so embarrassed about playing this heathen music that he followed it with a speech by the Padre. So the Padre came on afterwards and cleansed their sins for listening to rock and roll.
It's remarkable, isn't it? What do you think makes for a great broadcaster?
I think really, looking back, the key is that you're talking to one person, particularly with radio. You're not addressing a group of person, it's very much one-to-one. And if you have a person in mind, it doesn't matter whether it's a man or a woman, I just think it's a friend. Because if they're listening to you, they like you, presumably, and they are a friend. So that's what I'm doing. And it's a very funny thing, isn't it, to go into a room on your own and talk to an inanimate object. But I've done it for 60 years now. So the microphone to me has become like an umbilical cord.
You've had a long career. You should be on a beach somewhere. Why are you still working?
I love it. I love it. When we were in lockdown, Boom Radio contacted me.
National DAB station.
National
Quarter of a
DAB
million
station.
listeners a week.
Yeah, thank you. And they said to me, we're launching this radio station for boomers. Would you like to be part of it?
And a boomer is somebody that I guess was born after the war, so you'd be looking at 60 plus in age?
Yes, 60 plus. So they said, everybody's broadcasting from home. I said, well, I don't have a studio. So they said, we'll give you one. So they gave me a microphone, headphones, all the music on computer, and I do lunchtime every day. I live on a farm, so it's wonderful. You know, the window's open, you can hear the birds singing, and it's just great. No travel, no COVID worries, broadcasting from home.
And you're working with some fantastic other radio legends like Nicky Horn and Graham Dean.
Yes, who are both at Capital, and lots of old pals and lots of old colleagues of mine. And they're just really a bunch of radio enthusiasts who've put this station together, and the audience has embraced it, which is wonderful.
Are young people allowed to listen to it?
Oh, yes. And we've actually found that a lot of young people really like it because, you know, Mark, a lot of that music is timeless. And when you go back, if you think of the 60s, you think of the Beatles, the Stones, Motown, absolutely.
Incredible.
You know, it really, the golden
A hit
age of
factory.
music. Yeah, and it never dates. So we've actually got a lot of, you know, what would you call them? Pre-boomers, or are they post-boomers?
Yeah, they're also
post-boomers.
Post-boomers, and they're sometimes known as young fogies, aren't they?
Well, I wouldn't call them that.
No, tweed-wearing 20-somethings. But I think that, obviously, you know, people have got their preferred decade for music, but the 60s and 70s, it doesn't get much better than that, does it?
I think the thing about 60s and 70s music was it was very happy, it was very bright and optimistic, and you could sing along to it. And it's just a very happy era. A lot of the music, we do play some new music. We have a new record every hour. And obviously we pick them carefully so that they appeal to our age group. And sometimes you get artists like, you know, Elton John, Rod Stewart, who are making new records. Sometimes you get new people as well, like the guy who's just been in Eurovision, Sam Ryder.
Yeah.
But mainly it's late 50s, so it's rock and roll, 60s and 70s, and maybe a little bit of 80s. And generally, if you get back later than that, the music changed an awful lot. Some of the modern stuff, to be honest, is a bit depressing, isn't it?
Well, it's very commercial, isn't it?
Yeah.
Generic, corporate, soulless.
Yeah, well, yeah.
You feel like it's either been generated by a computer or a committee or both.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I obviously I was broadcasting through the Beat era, and I did one of the first television interviews with the Beatles, 1963, when they'd had about 2 hit records. And I interviewed them, Brian Epstein, their manager, Jerry and the Pacemakers, who were the first band to have 3 consecutive #1s in the UK, and the Beatles, and they were quite tricky. You know, John Lennon particularly had a rather prickly wit, and I think he saw me as a sort of posh southerner. You know, it was all that using the tape recorder, wasn't it?
Yes.
Learning to talk proper.
Of course.
But later that year, I introduced them in concert in Manchester, and I remember tickets to see the Beatles were 10 shillings in old money.
Imagine.
The show was done in a marquee, and when I introduced them, the audience, which was, you know, teenage girls, stormed the marquee. I thought it was going to collapse.
Yeah, remarkable.
Yeah.
And did you, I mean, the first time you heard the Beatles and when you interviewed them for the first time, did you feel that you were in the presence of greatness?
Well, I didn't realise quite how big they were going to be. You know, it was just before Beatlemania came along. But it was obvious that they were...
When you interviewed them, had Love Me Do their first single come out?
Love Me Too, Love Me Do, and I think possibly Please Please Me.
Right, so they were on their way up, but they hadn't quite gone crazy yet.
No, they hadn't. I don't think they'd had a #1 at that time.
So John was a bit chippy, a bit prickly, a bit gobby.
Yeah,
what about Paul? How was Paul?
Paul was okay. Ringo was very nice, and George, of course, was the quiet one.
Yeah.
The following year, I must tell you, I introduced the Stones in concert. And I remember it very well because I had a little red MGB sports car, which was very fashionable at the time. And I parked it at the back of the theatre, as you could in those days. Somebody thought it was Mick Jagger's car and scratched a love note on it. So for a week, I was driving around with, I love you, Mick, on the bonnet of my car. Very embarrassing.
I'd have kept that forever. What a badge of honour. How different was working in TV and radio in the 60s as opposed to now?
Well, there were very few channels. When I started as an in-vision television announcer, which again you mentioned, ABC in Manchester, there were only 2 channels. And on Sunday nights, ABC had a blockbuster schedule. They had Armchair Theatre, which was great drama, British actors. They had Sunday night at the London Palladium, great variety, top stars coming over from America.
Hosted by the likes of Bruce Forsyth.
Jimmy Tarbuck, people like that, They had The Avengers, which was a cult series.
Massive.
And Maverick, the Western. So what happened was that on Monday morning, everybody went to work talking about the same programmes that they had seen the night before, which wouldn't happen now because there are so many different channels. So television at that time was very, very big. And even as an announcer, you know, appearing between the programmes, you would be asked to go and open shops and fetes and things like that. So it was a great time to be in television.
And you're still going strong. Your voice is as mellifluous and well-spoken as ever. That QC that you taught yourself, the received pronunciation is still in place.
Yeah.
You have had a brush with illness. Are you feeling better?
Yes, I had a blood test, a routine blood test, and discovered that I had a very rare form of blood cancer. It's a thing called polycythemia vera. They all have these complicated names, but it's PV for short. Basically, what it means is that you've got too many red blood cells, and that's not healthy because you could have a stroke or a heart attack. So the answer is you have venesection. So you go to hospital like you're a blood donor, and you give. I've been giving blood regularly.
You're dumping blood as much as possible.
Yeah,
really.
but nobody wants it. Nobody wants my blood because
I'll take your blood.
It's too red.
I'll set it on eBay.
And I'm too old. But what's happened is that I brought my red cell count down to what is now a healthy level. But I take chemotherapy pills, which mean I do get a little bit tired. So this is actually after my bedtime now, so I've stayed up late for you, Mark.
Well, I'm so glad you've stayed up late, and there's no evidence of any fatigue whatsoever. You're still going strong. No. And it's a curious illness because it manifested itself in effectively a suntan. So everyone was telling you how great you looked.
Well, I do now actually have a suntan, but even before I had the suntan, yes, I had a message from Richard Littlejohn, you know, writes for the Daily Mail.
Yeah.
It's a good pal of mine. And he said, your favourite record now should be Rosie by Tom Partridge.
Brilliant.
He said, goes with your complexion.
Yeah. But, well, look, I'm so glad that you're back on the path to recovery. And, of course, you're beaming, you're glowing with joy at the moment because your beloved Fulham FC have been promoted to the Premier League.
Yes.
And, of course, you've been the announcer at the stadium for many years. Do you still do the announcements?
No, I did it for 18 years. And I did it actually in the dugout. And in the middle of winter, it became very, very cold. Basically, I was freezing my nuts off in the middle of winter. And so I handed over the microphone to a younger man. But I was very lucky because we had 18 wonderful seasons. We had 3 promotions. Brilliant. We had a Europa final in Hamburg, where I warmed up the crowd. I must tell you this, on a cherry picker high above the crowd, and the cherry picker packed up, wouldn't move, and I was stuck up there.
Oh, no.
And I don't like heights. So
disaster.
Can you imagine that?
So you had to style it out.
Well, the awful thing about it was that part of it, the cage was open at the side, and something in me made me think, I think I want to jump off. And I thought, my God, if I do this in front of a full house in Hamburg, it'd be a hell of a way to go. And then I thought, yeah, but I don't want to go yet.
No, well, look, I mean, definitely not. That's another brush with misfortune over which you have clearly prevailed. You are a bit of a survivor, aren't you, in life and in career?
Well, I think so. I think if you survive 60 plus years in this business, you are lucky. And either that or just stubborn and won't take a hint.
Well, also, I don't know if you can be lucky for 6 decades. You've obviously got a great talent. And how important is it to sort of get on with the people that you work with, the people around you?
Well, I'm very lucky now because I'm not just saying this, but I'm working with the nicest people now that I've worked with in my career. So if this is my last job, then it will finish on a very, very happy note. I've worked for nice people. I've worked for some not quite so nice people. But I guess that's life, isn't it? You know.
The media is cutthroat. Have you ever had your heart broken professionally?
Yes, I did. When I left Radio 1, I was very happy at Radio 1, and BBC moved me to Radio 2. At one point, I think you mentioned this, my show was on both.
Yeah.
Because of an economy move, and then they got the money back, and I moved to Radio 2. And Radio 2 was not in those days what it became later. And I was very, very happy at Radio 1. And
Radio 1 was where it was at. That was prime time, by comparison.
And the thing was at that particular...
The Premier League.
Yeah, and the thing at that particular time was that pop music appealed to all age groups. Yeah. So from grandparents to grandchildren, everybody sat round the television every week watching Top of the Pops and watching as a family, you know. So, they were great times.
What a career, which continues on Boom Radio.
On Boom Radio, thank you.
Back on air on Monday at midday?
Midday till 2.
Fantastic stuff. The voice, the looks, the suit, it's all still there. My profound thanks to David Hamilton, a broadcasting legend. Lots more to come after this US showbiz news with the Queen of American royal and political reporting, Kinsey Schofield. Plus, more to come in the news agenda with our panel. Are you worried about monkeypox and what makes a real man in 2022? Lots to come, plus another great British game show as well. See you shortly.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle, and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debate, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
It's time now for US News with the Queen of US showbiz, royal and political reporting, Kinsey Schofield. Hi, Kinsey. Now, we're just connecting to Kinsey, who is, of course, a reporter in Hollywood, Los Angeles, California, and we're going to talk to her about the US and the UK possibly stuck in a diplomatic battle over a trade deal, particularly given tensions in Northern Ireland around the Northern Ireland Protocol. Now, for those who are uninitiated or living in a cave recently, Britain is considering getting rid of the Northern Ireland Protocol, which places an invisible border down the Irish Sea. Well, the leader of the House in the United States, Nancy Pelosi, has said that if Britain actually cancels the Northern Ireland Protocol, well, then there won't be a trade deal with the United States. So we're going to discuss that with her very shortly. We're also going to get the latest on Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. And with us now is Kinsey Schofield. Hey, Kinsey.
Hi, good to see you.
Look, great to have you back on the show, as always, on a Saturday night. So Nancy Pelosi, Leader of the House, wagging her finger about Britain and the boundaries of this country. She has said that If the Prime Minister gets rid of the Northern Ireland Protocol, which places a border down the Irish Sea, we lose a trade deal with America.
And wouldn't you know, we have elections coming up in November. So big bully Nancy Pelosi is running her mouth off to try to ensure that the Democrats stay in control. I don't, you know, if I were in your position, I would be irritated by this, because who is she to talk about it? It's as petty as Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi. They have some Irish in their blood, and they're going to step up because they want those votes. I mean, it's seriously as petty as that. So I don't know. This is a difficult situation, but it's honestly not really a topic of conversation here in the States. You know, she's actually in the headlines today because the Archbishop in San Francisco has said that he's not going to allow her to take communion because of her stance on abortion. And that's really how she's stolen the headlines here in America. But yeah, I just think that this is a case of Nancy Pelosi being a bully.
Yes, well, I can't disagree. What's the latest in the trial of the century between Amber Heard and Johnny Depp?
Okay, well, I was saving this. I want to show you. I have to be cool because my dogs will see, but this is my dog's favorite chew toy. It's a Nancy Pelosi doll.
He's already given it a good go, hasn't he?
Pardon?
He's already had a good go on it, your dog.
Oh,
she's
yes.
barely
Oh,
recognizable. Poor Nancy.
Exactly.
So cruel. So cruel.
But
she
yeah,
is quite a
to get
divisive
back to-
figure in American politics, isn't she?
Can you what did you describe her as? I can tell you she's very toxic, and she has divided a line between the country. I mean, the entire Biden campaign throughout 2020 was reuniting the country, and some of the biggest dividers are actually Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi. So I can tell you she's a very toxic character in regards to U.S. politics, and I won't be disappointed when she decides to call it a day.
No, I tend to agree with you. Well, let's now get the latest on Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. They were, of course, married, and now Depp is pursuing Amber Heard, his ex, through the courts for defamation. So how's it going?
Well, Amber Heard is now in control of the courtroom, so she testified for a few days. I'd actually say the strongest witness for Amber was her sister Whitney, who testified that she witnessed some abuse, but not towards Amber. She said that Johnny had pushed her, and we expect Johnny to call a rebuttal witness, which is actually one of Whitney Heard's former employers. And honestly, if she says what's in a deposition that we've seen, she will absolutely destroy Whitney Heard's testimony. We have closing arguments on Friday. So that means we're going to have everything wrapped up by Friday, and we should maybe next week have an understanding of who has the lead here.
Yes, I mean, obviously the whole world is watching this trial. It's box office. It's like a movie, isn't it?
It absolutely is. You can't make up the amount of engagement, in Instagram accounts that are following the trial that just popped up at the beginning of the trial, with millions and millions of followers. The hashtags that you see trending every day during the trial, we haven't seen something this significant since O.J. Simpson or the Jodi Arias murder trial here in America.
Now, who on earth is Cara Delevingne and what's she been up to?
She is a hot mess express, Mark, okay? And speaking of Amber Heard, Cara Delevingne is rumored, and this actually might come out in rebuttal too, rumored to have had a threesome with our friend Elon Musk and Amber Heard. Cara Delevingne is, next level crazy, okay? And I mean that in the nicest way possible. But she was seen at the Billboard Awards with Megan Thee Stallion. I don't know if they're dating or not because Cara is constantly paired with people. And she was so creepy, peeking out behind Megan Thee Stallion, inserting herself in conversations. She's right there sitting next to her. She's out of control. We know she's had some substance abuse problems, but her behavior was so strange at the Billboard Awards. People questioning, first of all, why she was there. She's a model and sometimes actress. But Cara Car Crash TV is a very good description of Cara Delevingne.
Yes, I mean, it's the problem with being a celebrity. We've seen it with Britney Spears and others, that when you're in the public eye, if you're having a meltdown, everyone witnesses it.
Yes. And, you know, she's actually not very nice. You were talking about how great Tom Cruise is to interview. She has snapped at people in the past when she has had to do press for movies and things. So if you are going to be a hot mess, the least you can do is, you know, be kind of cool to the people that are interviewing you to ensure positive press in the future from those people that, you know, have a soft spot in their heart for you.
Well, we've got a soft spot in our heart for you, Kinsey. Can't wait to see you very shortly. You're coming to the UK in June for the wonderful Jubilee celebrations.
I am. I'm so excited to see you. I've been in my Kim Kardashian sweatsuit, and I have 3 pairs of Spanx, as promised, ready to go. They're packed.
Well, I'll borrow at least 1 pair of them. Thank you so much, Kinsey. Brilliant to have you on the show. We'll see you in a week's time. My thanks to the fabulous Kinsey Schofield, who, of course, is the queen of US showbiz, royal and political reporting. Let's catch up on some of your emails before we get to tomorrow's papers. This on Tom Cruise. Deborah says, I'm not a fan of Tom Cruise at all. He's not an honourable man. Ask his daughter. How about this? Does size matter? Does size matter? How about this from John, who says, every slug has its day. Wait till it rains. OK, lots more to get through. I think we're going to grab a break because we've got tomorrow's papers waiting in the wings for you. But let's just get a reaction to everything we've been discussing with our panel first before we do that. AJ Bunker, Laura Dodsworth and Nick Dixon. Let me start with you, Nick Dixon. First of all, what's your reaction to this rather shocking story of Nancy Pelosi, Leader of the House in Washington, dictating the borders of this country, the United Kingdom?
Yeah, it's terrible. I mean, they've got enough to worry about with the war in Ukraine, the gas prices, inflation, and now I hear Joe Biden's run out of his baby formula. So they have enough to deal with. I don't know why Pelosi's getting involved. It's a very complicated situation already because the DUP obviously want to resolve the protocol, but the EU won't change it, and then so that's why we have to step in. But now Pelosi's stepping in to try and block that. I don't know if it's because she wants to align with Sinn Féin or the EU or what, but I think they've got plenty to deal with domestically they should get on with.
Yes, I mean, Laura, this is not a good look here in the UK, is it? I mean, the Americans wouldn't allow us to dictate the terms of the border between Nevada and California.
No, absolutely. I mean, I'm not the greatest expert on the Northern Ireland Protocol, but it would seem that Nancy Pelosi isn't either, because she's talked about how it's important we ensure that there's no physical border. There's no plans to put in a physical border. She really needs to back off and stop lecturing the UK on what we should and shouldn't be doing. But it does betray a real ignorance of international affairs, and it's interesting because we understand that ignorance on this side of the pond. I wonder what else she's ignorant about in the world.
Yeah, and a quick word, AJ, on Cara Delevingne. I mean, have you witnessed celebrities behaving badly?
You know, I think... So I've actually seen the footage of Cara Delevingne and how she was acting like a possessive, like, girlfriend or boyfriend. But I have been to events, and I think sometimes people forget you are there to work, and, you know, you're... how you portray yourself. So, yeah, I mean, even how she was dressed, she wasn't really dressed for an awards ceremony. And she, it's just, she just looked like a hot mess, to be honest.
Yeah, too right. It's not a great look, is it? Well, look, we are just 15 seconds away from the papers. That's right, the papers are in tomorrow's front pages. Get them shortly. See you in a sec.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
It's basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Well, it's time for tomorrow's front pages. And Sebastian, where shall we start? OK, let's go to The Observer first of all. Here's their front page. PM to sacrifice top official over Partygate to save himself. Boris Johnson is expected to scapegoat the head of the civil service, Simon Case, this week in a desperate effort, say The Guardian, to save his own job, as both men face stinging criticism in a report into lockdown-breaking parties in Downing Street. Also, Ukrainian man drives 3,700 kilometres to reunite with parents and fiancé 10 kilometres away. There you go. It's a 10-minute drive from Serhei Baleve's house in the village of Truzhny to his fiancé's home in Kharkiv. A quick spin on another street and over he goes on the motorway. But it took hours as a result of the war. But finally, they were reunited. Next up, the Sunday Mail, which is, of course, a national Scottish newspaper. Peti Patel, a Ukrainian child refugee, has been told her pet guinea pigs can seek shelter in Scotland, but she can't. OK, next up, the Sunday Mirror. Wagatha Christie exclusive. Colleen, it's in the bag. Rooney tells pal, I will be vindicated. She celebrated with a cup of tea. I wonder if Wayne celebrated with something stronger. Sunday People next. Meghan in new court drama. Exclusive. Sisters bid to make Duchess give video evidence. And Corrie Ken, I wanted to be a cowboy. Sunday Telegraph. Tories in threat to torpedo unions. Conservative ministers planning to break stranglehold on transport and education. The Conservatives are threatening to launch a double-pronged attack against trade unions in an effort to break their stranglehold on the public. Grant Shapps, the Transport Secretary, told the Sunday Telegraph that the government was poised to draw up laws requiring minimum numbers of rail staff to work during a strike. Also, civil servants erasing women from new laws. Ministers have accused civil servants of erasing women from new legislation as Downing Street prepares a crackdown on the spread of militant wokery in Whitehall. Imagine, folks, we were actually paying for this nonsense. Let's have a look. One last story on the front page of the Telegraph of interest. Windfall tax on energy giants will not tackle cost of living crisis. Ministers warn Sunak. So there you go. Would a windfall tax be pure politics and nothing more? Let's go to the Sunday Times next. NHS covered up ambulance deaths scandal. Trust managers altered files to hide mistakes by staff from coroners and grieving families. Sunak and Johnson clash over how to spend windfall tax. Rishi Sunak is planning a windfall tax for energy companies, with a lower rate for firms prepared to invest billions of pounds in the economy. The Chancellor's policies to help with the rising cost of living, due to be announced next month, would be funded by taxing profits banked by BP, Shell and others. Those that agree to increase investment will be treated more leniently, but the plan follows weeks of confusion and cabinet backbiting over how to deal with the cost of living crisis. Boris Johnson was prepared to support the idea only if Sunak put some of the proceeds into the PM's preferred projects, such as nuclear power stations and offshore wind farms. OK, next up, we've got the Sunday Express, I believe. And let's have a look. Sunday Express, free tuition pledge for all pupils. Education Secretary vows he will provide one-to-one help for everyone in need. And Sacré Bleu, how France fell in love with Her Majesty. Well, I'm very happy with the French after they gave us 12 points in the Eurovision Song Contest. So it seems like the détente between our great nations continues. And those are your front pages. Nick Dixon, let me get your reaction to the news that there is major tension at number 10 about how to spend this energy windfall tax. But what we do know from Sunday's papers is it's coming.
Really, you've come to me on the windfall question. It's the most boring story. It is important. The energy situation is very important. The basic debate here is that some people feel it's unconservative to do this windfall tax, that it's a sort of quasi-socialist approach. Others say, well, we've already done this kind of thing with furlough and all that. But I think, as far as I understand it, the energy companies should just be spending more, and you should be incentivising them to do that, rather than just putting on this windfall tax, which limits business. That's the criticism of it.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think, Laura? It's certainly not the action of a Conservative government, is it? A tax raid on a successful industry.
No, it's not. But the energy crisis is really serious, and everything should be done possible to alleviate it. I wouldn't normally think this is a good solution, but not only should we be doing that, but we should be axing green levies. I mean, in a normal winter, there can be 10,000 deaths from the cold, from fuel poverty. And what's that going to be this winter? We should have our eyes trained on this country and on the deaths that could occur from fuel poverty right here because of a cost of living crisis that hasn't been averted in time. What I think is really shocking about this story is that politicians, ministers said they would not impose a windfall tax, and now they are. They're just weather vanes to public opinion.
Isn't the argument that this windfall tax, the cost of living crisis is a nightmare, but the argument is it will probably benefit families to the tune of £100 a year, but it will be a disincentive to investment in green renewable energy, which is what we're asking the industry to do?
I'd rather see all the green levies scrapped. That's what we should be doing. That's what we should be doing right now to save people from the crisis that's coming this winter when they're going to have to choose between heating and eating. And you've been obviously quite a critic of COVID policies over the last 2 years, as represented by your brilliant book, The State of Fear. Which headline are we going to get to? Yes, go on then.
And therefore, this is payback, isn't it, for what we've seen in the last 2 years, shutting the economy down for in excess of 2 years, and printing billions of pounds.
Yes, and in fact, I'm annoyed with myself just now for saying a cost of living crisis. We don't have a cost of living crisis, we have a cost of lockdown crisis. So I concede it goes further back than that. We've been quantitative easing since 2008. But yes, we shut down the economy, and not just this country, but all around the world, which has huge repercussions for the economy, but also quantitatively eased our way through the crisis. So where we are now was completely foreseeable, and what a pathetic situation we're in when the Governor of the Bank of England says he's helpless to do anything in the face of this unforeseeable inflation.
And early in the pandemic, I spoke to so many economists on my radio show who were very, very relaxed about the borrowing. Well, here we are. It's not very relaxed now, is it?
Absolutely bizarre.
Don't you think we saw sort of Sage get their modelling wrong, and we've seen economists get their modelling wrong too. Even the Bank of England's Director General didn't see inflation coming or sticking around. Andrew Bailey.
I don't really know what he's doing in the job if he's helpless. He says he's run out of horsemen. He is one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. We've had quantitative easing, lockdown, furlough. Thank God he's run out of horsemen, really.
Are there parallels between scientific incompetence and economic incompetence?
Maybe. It's like a veil of madness just came over any sort of professional middle classes who said that the situation we're in now is unforeseeable. Look, we've got the same kind of thing going on with schools. We've got Nadeem Sahawi saying, we should never have shut schools. We're going to provide tuition for people. Young, toddlers with speech development delays. And we're being told that none of this was foreseeable, yet there were experts sounding the alarm about all of these issues right at the beginning.
And they were bad people who were, of course, shut down.
They were wild cards. They were putting the economy before lives or not taking the infection seriously enough. AJ
Bunker, Wagatha Christie, have you picked a side yet?
Do you know what? I've actually not picked a side, and I've actually kind of kept away from this, but actually I'm not too familiar with what's going on with these.
Well, do you think it's ridiculous that that this has gone to court, that Rebecca Vardy and Colleen Rooney are spending millions of pounds?
It is. To be honest, I heard about the story.
Going at each other, the biggest catfight in history.
It is, and I think it is a bit ridiculous, to be honest. I remember hearing about this story however long ago it was, and it's now taken to court. I think training girls just handle it outside of a courtroom, just say what you have to say to each other, and it's just like they're trying to publicly humiliate each other, and it's just, I think now it's just a competition between the two, and it's like who's got one up on the other. So I've just kind of kept out of it. I don't have a side. But
you're very wise. I don't think you want to. Have you found in TV, have you sort of seen evidence of women being really horrible to each other?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, at the moment, so I'm actually doing a new show at the moment, and my opponent at the moment is absolutely vile to me. She's trolling me online. So the thing is, I think as women, we can decide to not rise up to that level, really. So maybe these women can...
So you're taking the high road?
I'm taking the high road in terms of I will never slate or belittle a woman's body or looks, but in terms of when it comes to fight night, I know, yeah, absolutely, I'm going to smash her up.
we saw the deputy leader of the Labour Party, Angela Rayner, tweeting something else from Rishi Sunak. Rishi Sunak said, I'm publishing some financial report, and she wrote, do one. Just do one. This is a politician that's previously called Tories scum.
Oh, wow.
Do you think that this is appropriate for a politician?
Probably not. Do you know what? But at the same time, kind of relatable. It kind of makes you feel like, oh, she's actually a human being, you know? So
It might resonate. It might resonate with some people.
Yeah, exactly. Might resonate with some people. But again, choice of words. So, I mean, What's
the TV show? Are you allowed to tell us, or is it a top secret?
No, it's out. It's called Celeb MMA. So it's an MMA fight. So.
Wow. What is MMA?
Mixed martial arts.
I thought it was a vaccine.
Mixed martial arts.
Wow.
Yeah.
So do you actually fight?
Yeah.
This is incredible. So you've been training?
Yeah, 12 weeks of fight camp at the moment.
Are you enjoying it?
I love it. Absolutely love it.
And you've got no bruises or anything?
It's because I'm good at what I do.
What about Strictly? Do you not fancy doing Strictly instead? Learn to tango rather than MMA?
Do you know what? That's the next thing on the list.
Yeah, that's definitely...
Learn to fight, learn to move in the ring.
Definitely rougher than wrestling any day, old Strictly, isn't it? Brilliant stuff. Lots more to come with my panel. Big stories in the news agenda and another great British game show. This time in honour of Tom Cruise, whose movie is out this weekend. Celebrity Height. That's right. We'll be discussing that very, very shortly. Lots to get through. Don't go away.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle, and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Now, what's the latest virus you keep hearing about? Well, you guessed it, it's monkeypox, with 80 confirmed cases in 11 countries, including here in the UK. Scientists who specialise in the virus are dumbfounded by the outbreak. In Sweden, the government has already gone as far as to classify monkeypox as a disease dangerous to public health, like COVID once was, after confirming one case. So what do we think? Are we worried about this? Another virus to concern ourselves with? AJ, are you worried about monkeypox?
Not really, because I'm doing my research. I think chickenpox is worse, and we all have chickenpox. Yeah. And after two to 3 weeks, it goes. So, yeah, and you might have to deal with a little bit of rash, but, you know, No, it doesn't concern
No,
me.
and don't you think now we've sort of got addicted to fear, haven't we?
And that's it. And I think we've overcome having COVID, which is actually something that could potentially kill you. Monkeypox isn't going to kill you, so should we be scared of it? Not really.
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite looking forward to it. It's a
You
sort of
kinda
thing
wanna
that,
get it.
well, youngsters
So
get
I've got
So
it.
it's a bit like acne. When you get older, it's quite nice to have acne.
Yeah, it's kind of maybe it's like a niche. It's like
A little bit,
monkeypox,
like a teenager again. Laura, you can see, can't you, the wheels set in motion of fear-mongering by the state and by the media.
Well, I'm not sure if it's by the state. I think this is by the media. In fact, all the pronouncements from public health have been very measured, we've got this, and I'm sure they have. You know, actually, the problem is that we test more, so we find more. The problem here is the media. You know, they're addicted to fear. Journalists are addicted to fear and to the clickbait headline. Personally, I'm all out of drama. I'm all out of fear. I'm not remotely worried about monkeypox.
Yeah, I also think, Nick Dixon, that after 2 years of extremely damaging measures, you know, some will argue, the government will argue they were saving lives, but, you know, we're punch drunk, aren't we, from lockdowns and financial problems, ignoring other illnesses, that, frankly, the bubonic plague would come along now, and I'd be like,
no,
I don't care.
Yeah,
I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done with public safety measures.
I feel exactly the same, Mark, and I'm torn with monkeypox, though, because the conspiracy side of me thinks that Bill Gates has released it to, you know, reduce the population and sell more vaccines. But obviously the rational, moderate side of me thinks that Bill Gates has released it as part of his germ games program as a sort of test. So, you know, I've got these two very different competing sides.
Well, there you go. That, of course, is a debate that will continue. We'll bring you a hysteria-free coverage of monkeypox as and when we get it. Researchers at Gettysburg College in Pennsylvania claim to have found the secret to discovering man's manliness. Look into the whites of his eyes. It might sound like a romantic novel, but actually it's true. The white is yellower than redder in men and bluer and greener in women. So apparently it's all in the eyes. But what makes a man? In a few words, Nick Dixon, what is a man to you?
Well, partly it's testosterone, Mark. I got mine tested recently and found it was higher than certain fitness YouTubers in their like who are much younger than me. In some cases, in like their 20s or stuff. I'm like, so testosterone definitely, because mine's high. And otherwise, Mark, I think it's integrity, courage, the ability, you've got to speak out and tell the truth, and also a natural protective instinct, I think.
There you go. I like that. Well, you've got all those things. So very briefly, Laura?
Well, I would like to say that I have integrity and courage and an instinct to protect, and I'm not a man. So a man is simply an adult human male, and the rest are just personality characteristics.
How about you? What do you think makes for a good man?
Oh, where do I start?
You've been on Love Island. You've done your research.
Well, that's it. I think, well, again, integrity, someone who can be loyal, someone who can make you laugh. And
what about height?
Do you know what? I actually find that short guys are actually better in bed. That's a personal opinion.
Oh, hello. Well, this is great news because it inspires tonight's Great British Game Show, 6'5". See you after the programme. See you at midnight. We're going to play a game based around short men. It's called A Few Short Men, inspired by the great Tom Cruise. So we'll go through a range of celebrities. Please tell me how tall they are. Daniel Radcliffe, what do you reckon? How tall is he?
4'2".
5'6".
5'9".
You get the points, Nick. 5'5".
Thank you very much.
Yeah. How about Prince, the late, great Prince, pop star?
Oh, I love
Tiny,
Prince. Tiny, though. 5'5"?
5'4".
5'2", you get the points.
Wow.
Rishi Sunak, how tall is he?
Oh,
Chancellor of the Exchequer.
Little. 5'6".
He's 5'4", but he's also small in all. He just looks small.
You're going to share the points. 5'7".
He looks
5'7". Kevin Hart, the actor and comedian.
5'6".
He's actually not. He's 5'4". He is pretty pint-sized. Danny DeVito. You're going to have to go south of that for Danny DeVito. How tall is he?
5 foot.
Yeah, less than that. 4'10". He's a dwarf.
Still win.
Genghis Khan.
Oh, 6.
No, he'd have been tiny. People were smaller then. It'd
No,
be like...
he had a small man syndrome. 5'1". Comedian Robin Williams.
Ooh.
We're still in 5 foot.
Are they going to be...
5'8".
Is he the wild card? Is he actually tall at 5'10"?
5'7".
Oh.
And then last but not least, how tall am I?
6'5".
I am. I did tell you a few minutes ago just to make sure you're concentrating. Thank you to my amazing panel. Please come back soon. Thanks to you for watching. I'm back tomorrow at 9, but stick around for Headliners. I'll be in the hot seat for that in just 5 minutes.